On everybody. So we're gonna go over some stuff with HUD evictions. Recently, there's been an uptick in HUD evictions, even though HUD just got a buku boatloads of money. Um, we got to go over some stuff. I want people to have knowledge of their rights, not only their rights, but the responsibilities that come along with living in public housing. Um, I'm going to go over some things because in my area, I've been telling people, look out for the elderly, look out for the senior citizens, look out for the people in public housing because there's going to be some stuff going on that it's just going to get insane. They really didn't go out and say what they're going to do or how they're going to do it, kind of what's going to be implemented. But recently, I've seen several things that have been taking place that just don't add up. That's like bug spraying. They're doing sprays for bed bugs, and supposedly they have this. There's this company called Apprehend, and it's based in the UK. I called them. I've done my research on this. I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I wanted to know the facts firsthand. So I talked to this company over in the UK. I don't know exactly where. They told me, but I don't know the area. Um, so they told me, Apprehend told me that the chemical that they spray is mold spores, and it lasts 3 to 4 months depending on the application. And it is recommended by the EPA, the United States EPA, as the most effective pre-treatment for bed bugs. As she's telling me this, and beforehand, before I even called them, I wanted to know if there was an effective pre-treatment because that's what I'm being told. This is a pre-treatment. Everything is pre-treatment. So I started reading through the paperwork. Everything was pre-treatment. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude. Like they're spraying everybody's like personal stuff. You got their like your couches, your chairs, your beds. They're spraying your stuff. And by law, they don't have a right to do that. By law, they do not have a right to do anything to your personal property. It doesn't matter that you live in public housing. It does not matter. That does not give them the right to go in there and mess with your own personal property. Because you have to look at it like this. Even the prisons. Now, I live in Pennsylvania. I don't know, maybe your state is different. But in the prisons in Pennsylvania, they are not allowed to touch your legal personal property. Your legal personal property. They're not allowed to touch it. So if they're not allowed to do that in prison, what makes anybody think that the public housing authority can come into your house whenever they want to schedule this appointment and then tell you that they're coming in and spraying your stuff? And that if you don't remove this stuff off of like your bedding and stuff like that, any type of slip cover, any type of whatever you have on any of your furniture, they're going to do it for you. Well, that's a threat. That's a threat. They're violating your rights. You have the right to privacy. Yes, they can come in and inspect that building, okay? They can come into that apartment or that house or whatever it is that they own that you are renting from HUD or public housing. Um, they can come in, they must give you 24-hour notice. That's in Pennsylvania. So the laws might be different elsewhere. They might have to give you 48 hours notice. But I believe everywhere in the United States, it's at least a 24-hour notice. Even a landlord, if you rent from a landlord, they're not allowed to come over and just come right into your house. Hey, surprise, I'm going to do an inspection. No, they're not allowed to do that. So I called the company up and they told me that, hey, this is the most effective pre-treatment. I'm like, nope, nope, I'm not buying it. And then they're like, well, it's been tested on the most vulnerable people in the world. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yes, I can attest to that. I said, well, I can attest to this. It has not been tried on the most vulnerable people because my son is one of the most vulnerable people in the world. He sees specialists because of this stuff, because of what he has that nobody can figure out. So we've been doing this for 19 years now, well, almost 19 years, since birth. So we've been going through this, and you're telling me that this spray is mold spores and it's been tested on the most vulnerable, yet my son is one of the most vulnerable, and we still have never heard about this through the United States EPA. You're a liar. And they didn't like that. They don't like to be called liars. And I said, Google it yourself, because I'm looking at Google right now and I read it. Google says, EPA says, there is no effective pre-treatment. None. The only effective pre-treatment for bed bugs is to be sanitary, to keep your place clean, to wash your bed sheets and, vacuum your beds and keep your pillow covers, your cushion covers unzipped. Throw them in the washer, bro. Like what? Ah, man, it's easy pre-treatment. Just keep your place clean. I mean, that's the pre-treatment. But once you all filthy and nasty and you got that stuff happening, then you got to treat it. So if they're telling me it's a treatment, that's one thing. But no, the paperwork says pre-treatment. And it's supposed to last 3 to 4 months depending on application. And these people, the housing authorities, are spraying it every month for 3 or 4 months straight. So everybody that is living in these dwellings are getting hit with a year's dose all at once, continuously. If each treatment should last 4 months, 3 to 4 months is what they're stating, why is it every month for a pre-treatment? There's something shady going on there. Something's not right. Something is not right. And these are happening, this is happening to people that are not dirty people. It's just happening to, hey, we're going to do it, we're doing it. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you got this ain't for bed bugs. It's to keep bed bugs out of here. Well, who has bed bugs? Nobody. But this is to keep bed bugs out of here. This is to make sure you don't get them. What? Okay, so that's going on. I don't know what the thing is with that. So other people are getting evicted, and just outright evicted. You got to go. And people do have rights when you're in housing. When you're in housing and you're on, let's just say, low income based housing, stuff like that, in the projects, look, it's almost impossible to kick you out if you are abiding by the rules and regulations. If you can provide rent receipts, and then they have to prove, like, this is what's going on. People are getting evicted for not paying rent. They can prove that they paid rent, but the housing authority does not have any of their own receipts. They never took receipt of that. So we're like, look, don't move. Contact the people that you got the money order from and run a trace on that number. Where did that money go? Somebody had to sign for that. Somebody had to cash that. Who cashed it? Because if it was the housing authority, it would come back, that county housing authority or whatever it is in your area. But if it's a person, individual, it's going to come back with their signature. They're going to know exactly where it was cashed at. That's why you have that receipt with those numbers on it. They're traceable. If it hasn't been cashed yet, well, did it get lost in the mail? What happened? Maybe you can get a refund on that, And if they can't find it, there's your proof that, hey, I did pay it. It's sent out there somewhere. They're going to give me another one. I'm going to give it back to you. Or I'm going to give this one to you, however it is. But even when you miss paying the rent, they have to write you up a misconduct. And that is what a lot of these places are failing to do. They're failing to do paperwork. It's easier just to tell you to get out. They don't have, well, we don't have any copies. You got to go. And then you think that you don't have a leg to stand on. But no, you got like 5 or 6 legs to stand on. They really don't. The housing authority doesn't really have a leg to stand on. Once you get in, once you get approved, and you're approved annually, you're good. Unless you violate the law and get arrested, then they can kick you out. If you have tenants there that are obnoxious, they can get you kicked out. If there's fighting there, if there's drugs there, if there's this there, if there's that there, I mean, those are things that get you evicted. But they have to give you a written complaint, a written piece of paper, signed and dated, sent to you through the mail. Everything has to be legal. And that's really what this is all about. We don't have to pay attention to the terms and stuff like that. They tell you about the penalties for failing to disclose or verify social security number, stuff like that, not telling them that you're working. Restrictions and the citizens for the non-citizens, you got to put all that stuff in there. An owner must terminate a tenant's assistance in the following circumstances: when you fail to provide the information, and then you fail to sign or submit the required paperwork. Okay? So then you have your annual or interim recertification. And as long as you get approved for that, you're golden. They can't kick you out. It's not like they can just say, hey, you got to move. Well, why? Because we said so. No, they can't do that. They can't do that. And then if it's failure to pay rent and you're on a yearly lease, that recertification, your annual recertification, then they must afford you the opportunity. They must afford you the opportunity to do a month-to-month lease. And then you must fail to pay rent 3 months in a row. And then they can take you to court to start the eviction process. Okay, so they got to tell you how many times you have to violate this thing 3 times in order for them to actually start any type of eviction process. But if you're on a yearly lease, they start that eviction process. You can go through it, learn all of your rights. You got to learn all of your rights so you can either get your benefits reinstated or you go on the month to month and then you just keep paying your rent and you're good. You're just now on a month to month until you get recertified. You got to wait that whole year. Walking away from this when you're evicted and you're just like, oh, I'm done with it. I don't care. They can do whatever. No, walking away from it not only allows them to do it again to the next person, but it also puts an eviction on your record so that you will not be able to apply for any type of housing for the next 3 years. So once they get you out, oh, we don't like you, we don't want you here. You're out for 3 years if you just willingly go and you don't put up a fight because you don't know your rights, and they can't really kick you out. If they start to kick you out, believe me, it'll take years for them to get you out. And they have to be adamant about it. They got to be adamant about it. And it's still going to take them years just to refuse to go. Because you have rights. You have all of these things afforded to you. So if it's other things other than paying rent, it depends on what it is. Like if your guests get you in trouble, then yeah, you probably could do a month to month. But your guests have to get you in trouble for 3 times. 3 times you get written up, people got to complain. So it has to be 3 different times. Now they can write you up for the one time, but if it happens 3 times in a year, you got an idiot friend that comes over and he gets cocky with your neighbors. Dude, 3 times of that, you're out. You know what I'm saying? You're going up for the hearing for the eviction process. Now you got to fight for your month to month. And if you don't know anything about the month to month, you're out. And then you can't rent for 3 years. And that's what's making people homeless around here. Because they just go around, you got to get out, you got to get out. No, we're evicting you. We don't need a reason. Well, yes, they do. Yes, they do. So the housing authorities in a lot of areas are doing a lot of shady things. I believe, I mean, what could really come from that spray? Sickness. It's not good for you. It's mold spores. And then you're spraying it every month for a chemical that's supposed to last for 3 to 4 months. How long is that stuff going to last? 8, 9 months on a heavy dose? And then the company tells me they're not supposed to be doing it like that. There's no way. And I said, I can email you the pictures with the dude's insurance number and phone number and everything. Business on the side of his truck. And he's been here multiple times, dude. They're time and date stamped. He's always over at this area. So you can't tell me that they're not doing it because I have proof that they are. I've been recording them. Because something fishy is going on. Now, what exactly is it? Well, like I said, they say it's mold spores. There's several different types of mold spores that are supposed to keep bed bugs away. And they're spraying these mold spores on everything that these people own and that they sit on and that they lay on. And they're saturating this stuff. I'm not a genius here. I'm not a scientist or a chemist or anything like that. That's not my field. But I'm not fucking retarded either. That ain't right. And to me, I don't know, man. People get sick that way. And are they trying to prolong something and say, oh, look what just mutated or something? I don't know what they're doing, man. I don't know what they're doing. And everybody's tight-lipped about it because why would they tell? Okay? Why would they tell about this stuff that they're doing that is not good? And pay attention to like these CFR numbers and all that stuff. Yeah, that stuff you guys want to look up. You want to research that. Research it. Fraud, minor violations, non-payment of rent, state or local landlord and tenant act. Substantial lease violations, other good cause. They can get you for other good cause. And then they got to state what it is and how many times you did that and whatever. You know what I'm saying? They got to bring this evidence to court. So they can't just come in and say, hey, you got to get out. No, that's illegal. They can't come in and say, hey, we're going to spray all this stuff all over your property. And you better get everything off or else we're going to do it for you. No, you can't do that, man. That's illegal. They have no legal right to do that. None. Nada. Zilch. Zip. No legal right to do that. And you guys can bring this up to the attorneys that are on YouTube, man. So a lot of these people, like I said, a lot of them are getting evicted. They're becoming homeless. They can't get housing for 3 years. Why? Why? It's crazy. And the ones that are staying are getting sprayed. Why? Why? These are some questions that really need to be answered on why people are getting kicked out. Everything is being terminated. All their leases are being terminated. And it's like, there's no reason other than, well, we don't want you here. Oh, we don't have any receipts that you paid rent. Dude, I'm telling you, man, if these people would just trace the numbers. But I live in an area where you got to do it for them. And I'm not in that position to do it for them. I can steer people in the right direction because I've been in through the courts, I've been drugged through the courts, and hey, you got to learn about the stuff if they're going to keep dragging you through it. And then people started, oh, you know a little bit about law. Well, a little bit. I know enough to look up what I'm being charged with. And I know that there's a loophole for every law ever written. There's a loophole. You just got to find it. You can beat whatever case it is. I'm dead serious, dude. I'm dead serious. So now this will even tell you right here. You gotta tell the people, and it's for disabled people and non-disabled people. There's a couple different things, and it says it must state the specific date of the tenancy will be terminated. State the reasons for the action with enough detail to enable the tenant to prepare a defense. Why? Because you're going to court. They have to take you to court. They cannot just say, here's your eviction notice, get out. No, it has to be a court order. And this is what people are so afraid of. So they got to state the reasons with enough, state the reasons for the action with enough detail to enable the tenant to prepare a defense. Go down and get a legal representative. Advise the tenant that remaining in the unit on the termination date specified in the notice may result in the owner seeking to enforce the termination in court, at which time the tenant may present a defense. All right? So, and it says advise the tenant that she has 10 days within which to discuss termination of the tenancy with the owner. The 10 days begins on the day that the notice is deemed effective. Okay, now that is important. That is very, very important. Okay? The 10-day period begins on the day that the notice is deemed effective. See paragraph B3 below. We'll get to that. Okay? Advise that persons with disabilities have the right to request reasonable accommodations to participate in the hearing process and be served on the tenant as described under paragraph B3C below. Another very important piece of information right there. So B3 is very important. When terminating tenancy for material non-compliance, the time of the service of the termination notice must be in accordance with the lease and state law. In the case of the tenant's non-payment of rent, the notice must include the dollar amount of the balance due on the rent account and the date of such computation. So if they tell you that you're late for rent and they don't put this in how much you owe and the date that they calculated it, the date they computed it, the date that they figured it out, when they added it up, they got to put that date on there and the amount that you owe, because now you got 10 days to pay it. that amount. That's when you can appeal, as up in 4. You got 10 days within which to discuss termination of the tenancy with the owner. Now, when does that 10 days start? Well, they have to do 2 things first. They got to send a letter by first class mail, properly stamped and addressed, and including a return address to the tenant at the unit, and they must deliver a copy of the notice to any adult person answering the door at the unit. If no adult answers the door, the person serving the notice may place it under or through the door or affix it to the door. The date on which the notice is deemed received by the tenant is the latter of the date on the first class letter is mailed or the date the notice is properly given. So the housing authority has to figure out, how many days does it usually take for your tenants to get the mail? And are we going to deliver it before then or after then? We're going to wait for that letter to be delivered and then hand deliver it? Or are we going to hand deliver it and then, I don't know if they got the letter, but that would be easier to wait a couple days, wait 5 days or whatever, and then take it over, hand deliver it, and ask them if they got the notice. Did you receive this in the mail? I have to bring this to you. They got to comply by the laws. So it has to be mailed and hand delivered, okay? Which is up here, B3 below, okay? The 10-day period begins on the day that the notice is deemed effective. When is it deemed effective? Well, it's deemed effective when it is received by the tenant, either by the date the first class letter is mailed or the date the notice is properly given. It's the latter. So whichever one. And they have one of those timestamp thingies on there so they can record everything. So service of the notice is deemed effective once the notice has been both mailed and hand delivered. So if they don't do that, if they don't send you a letter, they just give it to you, it's not effective. They have to prove that they mailed it to you. Otherwise, what does it say right here? You got to comply with the manner of service. Why? Because you have to do the 10-day notice. When does the 10-day period begin? If they don't do either one of those, the 10-day notice does not begin. It does not begin according to law. This is HUD. So you have another, other manner of service. So you got the drug abuse or criminal activity, alcohol abuse, illegal drugs, factors to consider when terminating tenancy for drug abuse or other criminal activity. So you have to take things into factor of, is it worth going to court to evict this person over this? And a lot of times they just write you something and they'll either mail it to you or they'll just hand deliver it to you, and they hardly ever do both. They hardly ever do both. And when you get in front of these people in court, you'd be surprised at how much they do not know the HUD guidelines. They don't know them. They know bits and pieces, which they feel that they are certified or authorized to do a lot of stuff, but they're not. You must read this and understand. I mean, there's more stuff. There's way more. There's way more. So you have to, they got to comply. You got to comply. Other good cause is defined by state or local law and local laws, not by HUD. Okay? So anything, like I said, you get arrested, all that stuff, whatever, that's other good cause. But for material violations and stuff like that, yeah. And I went through a lot of this stuff, and just download it. That way you can just go right through everything, because you have the Landlord Tenant Act. This is Landlord Tenant Act of 1951. So this goes through and gives people, again, somewhat basically of what HUD was going through and what HUD was speaking about. But this gives like a little bit more detail. And if you got to go to court, this is what you really want to go to. You want to go off of this, because this affords you a lot of rights, like legal rights. This is your legal, this is lawful. This ain't HUD. This is law. 1951 it came in. So there's a bunch of stuff that people have to research, and I'm telling you, you can look. You get evicted today, you're gonna be there for a couple of years if you fight it. If you know that you're in the right, you haven't violated anything, you're gonna get some money in the end too. Oh, another thing, they've some housing authorities have been known that when you go to court, you're going to get a late notice in the mail every month because you didn't pay them. Well, by law, you have to pay into escrow when you're in court. You pay the court your monthly rent. If you miss paying the court, then your case is done. You lose. It goes bye bye. You're done. You're done. You're out. But you just got to make monthly payments to the court. And when you do that, the housing authority charges you a late fee, which is illegal. They cannot do that. That's illegal. So you're going to find out exactly how corrupt, how stupid people are that work at these housing authorities once you actually challenge them. But you have to get with this stuff. You gotta understand what you're up against. You're up against a bunch of nitwits that really they're relying on an attorney that doesn't really know. I mean, there's only so much an attorney can do. And if the plaintiff doesn't do things right, if the housing authority doesn't do it right from the door, there's no way that attorney is going to beat you, because they have to abide by the law. They have to. And that's what a court is supposed to uphold them to. So this is a lot of, like I said, this is a lot of duties and the rights, and it kind of goes over what HUD goes over, but like I said, it goes for a lot of different things, more in depth, because HUD is kind of based off of this. HUD is brief because this law exists. These laws exist. So there's a bunch of different stuff that, like I said, just research. And then you're going to find out how much power that you actually have when you're in the housing, when you're going through HUD, and how much little they have. It's almost impossible to kick someone out, and especially someone disabled. It's damn near impossible to kick out a disabled person. But they try to do it all the time. Just by sending a letter or hand delivering a letter saying, "Get out, you're evicted." And then those that stay get sprayed. But research it, guys. Landlord Tenant Act of 1951, Act of April 6th, 1951, Public Law 69. There you go. But all in all, they don't have the right to really just come up and kick you out. They don't have the right to tell you to remove all your stuff off of your property in your house. They can come in and go through their cabinets. They can come through and go through If it's their stove, if it's their fridge, if it's their washer and dryer, if it's their garage, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, it's theirs, but they have to give you 24-hour notice that they're coming. They have to. And if they don't, that's a violation. They're not complying by law. So can they evict you? Yeah, they can, but it's a lengthy process and it's going to cost them a lot of money. So if you do put up a fight, odds are they're just going to let it go because it's going to cost them way too much money. And in most cases, when people put up a fight, it brings too much attention. And they don't want the attention because they're not legit. They don't know what they're doing. And they're going and spraying by a company called Apprehend, Aprehend, based out of the UK, and they're spraying mold spores everywhere. All the time. Continuous, man. Continuously. And they're telling people that they have to comply. You must comply. No, you don't have to. So get with this stuff. Look it up. I could keep going on and on and on. But it's just repetitive, man. Just look it up. Look it up. It's almost impossible to evict you out of public housing. And if they're trying and you haven't gone through the court process, they're doing it illegally. I mean, unless you got hit up with charges or whatever. I mean, there's things in there that's obvious. But then when you start to question, wait a minute, you're not even. I didn't get it like this. I didn't get this. I didn't do that, or I paid all of this, and they're telling me I didn't. People got to be proactive themselves. I mean, me and people like me can't just sit here and do everything for you. We can't do it. We can't. People got to do it themselves. But be aware of what rights you actually have and what avenues you actually have. A lot of people don't know what avenues they can turn to. Well, they're out there. You just got to research them. But till then, hope you guys are doing good and stay away from public housing, I guess. Man, oh man. They want to make everybody homeless today. Seems like it.